What would happen if you doubled your pricing and half of your clients quit?
Well, then nothing would happen.
Nothing would change. Then I say, what would happen to your operational costs? All right. We are coming to you from Mexico. We are Jason Hull and Sarah Hull, the owners of DoorGrow, the world's leading and most comprehensive coaching and consulting firm for long-term residential property management entrepreneurs. So we're going to be chatting about what today?
Pricing.
A little bit about pricing. So we have coached and consulted property managers on pricing for a long time, like over a decade. And we've brought some innovative strategies. Like we were first to bring to market really and push into the industry the 3-tier sort of pricing model, having 3 plans. And this was based on the psychology that there's 3 types of buyers: cheapos, normals, and premiums. You know who they are, right? You've dealt with them. And then more recently in our evolution, we've been pushing a hybrid model. I got that idea originally from Scott Brady. Shout out to Scott, smart guy. And we innovated on that and developed our own model for clients to make that really effective. And so this is something that we've coached quite a few people on. We consistently see some challenges come up over like switching their pricing. First, yes. What are some of the fears or concerns that come up? Maybe?
About switching pricing?
Yeah.
Everyone's always worried, oh my God, what if I lose all of my clients?
Right.
I'm going to change my pricing and everyone's going to leave me.
And we've helped a lot do that. They lost all their clients. No, it never happens. It never happens.
No, if they lose any, it's typically their worst clients. And then they end up finding that was a blessing.
Yeah. So they end up making money by getting rid of those. And they're charging more money. So really, they're increasing their revenue. So a lot of times to get them over that hurdle, I usually use this example. I say, what would happen if you doubled your pricing and half of your clients quit? Like we did something crazy and extreme. So we go to the extreme. And what do people usually say at first?
Well, then nothing would happen.
Nothing would change. I'm like, really? So then I have to ask deeper questions. So what do you mean nothing would happen? Well, I'd still bring in the same amount of revenue. I've doubled my price. Half the clients quit. I still have the same revenue. And then I say, what would happen to your operational costs? So they start thinking. So you probably are already figuring this out right now, listening to this. So what would happen to your operational costs? They'll say, well, it'd be cut in half. I'm like, would it? If you lost all of your worst properties and worst owners, like the most difficult, what would happen to your operational costs? It would probably be a fraction, because this is the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the properties, 20% of your owners are eating up 80% of your team and staff's attention. And so it might be a lot greater than that. And so what would happen then to your profit margin? So then they start to figure this out, right? And I say, look, we're not going to do something that extreme. We're not going to go that extreme. But if we raise your revenue a bit and we decrease your operational costs a bit without changing anything else, even if you lose some clients, you're going to have more profit. That's what actually matters. So that's one of the first initial things. It's just a mindset thing. And some are really afraid, like my owners won't go for it. Like I can't do it.
No, I can't change the pricing, then they'll all leave. And that I've noticed, it's very scarcity mindset, right? Your owners aren't with you because you charge the least amount of money, hopefully. And if that's why you have clients is because you're the cheapest one, then that tells me that you have a lot of the cheap clients, and you have a lot of clients that don't actually value you or your team or your services or anything that you do. And that feels like a really impossible game to win. Because then to win the game, all you have to do is just be the cheapest one. So there's another company that comes along and says, you know what, I'm going to be even cheaper. Well, what's going to happen? You'll lose almost all of your clients then. If it's only about the money, you'll lose almost all of your clients. And the only way to win that is what? A race to the bottom. That is nowhere to be in business.
There's really only 2 types of pricing that really matter in each market. It's the most expensive company and the cheapest. The middle's the fuzzy gray area where it doesn't matter. Your pricing isn't really the issue, where you're not really competing effectively on price. But if you're the most expensive, people trust and expect and believe that you're the best, which is a great place to compete and be. If you are the cheapest, then that's a hard game to play. And so we're usually coaching our clients, don't play the game of trying to be the cheapest company in your market. That's not a fun place to be business-wise. And it's really difficult to deliver great service. And so unless you want to be the cheapest and deliver the most cutthroat, like awful service and just target the cheapest owners, which have the highest operational cost and the lowest margins, and just hemorrhage money and not be able to grow your business, that's the game you could play, but that's not the game we coach our clients on playing. So we teach them how to be perceived as the best in their market and how to compete as the best in their market. And pricing is one of those psychological indicators that buyers look at to figure out, are they going to be good? Are they better than the other guys? Are they the best? And so there's a lot of psychology that goes into pricing, which is how we kind of deal with it. Any other issues we should touch on that we notice with clients with pricing? So in short, what Sarah was talking about is we need to make sure the pricing is easy for them to make a distinction between the 3 plan options, if you have the 3 plans, and it's not overly complicated so that they don't have to do a bunch of math to figure out which plan should I choose and which one's going to be best. And it's obvious. And it's not going to be based. The thing I've noticed lately, though, is a lot of clients, when they get into the pricing, they mistakenly think the 3 plans are based on money, and it's not psychologically. The premium buyers don't care as much about money. The cheapos do. And so the plans are not based on money. And so what they're trying to make different in each of the 3 plans is dollar amounts. So like if you spend more on our plan, you get discounts on all these individual fees. And that is the most premium clients that are premium buyers don't care about discounts. They're not worried about the money. And so I know when a property manager is presenting pricing like this, they're a cheapo. They're in that category. They're viewing everything through the lens of money instead of being taken care of a premium service or status or what premium buyers look for. And so that's the other blind spot or challenge we've noticed in pricing is that in order for us to coach clients effectively, often we have to figure out which of the 3 types of buyers they are and what their inherent blind spot is, and get them. And if they're a cheapo, which is why they have cheap pricing and they're not getting paid enough and they're not being taken care of well enough by their business, we have to get them to change their mindset and get them to stretch and stop asking for discounts and coupon codes and get them to be somebody that is willing to spend full price so they expect others to be willing to pay for a service full price. And that's a bigger challenge.
Yes. So essentially what we get to do is figure out where they're at so that we can help kind of coach them on the opposite. Because it's hard for a cheapo buyer to understand the premium buyer because they're just not in that mindset. The opposite is true. The premium buyers, they don't understand the cheapo buyers at all. Like, I don't understand why you can't just pay for it. Why are you so worried about $10? I don't understand why that's an issue. I mean, you can spend $10 and you shouldn't have to think about it. I don't know why that's an issue. Usually where the meat in the middle is kind of that middle plan. So I think a lot of people get their middle plan dialed in really well, and then they struggle with their opposite. And that's, I think, sometimes why they get a little bit stuck on their pricing, because they're either trying to do too much with it, they're making everything really complex, they're not really understanding the opposite type of buyer that they are. That's okay. You don't fully have to understand that when you have your coaches to lean back on. The question we get most of the time, what do I put in my premium plan? What am I supposed to do in the premium plan? I don't know. Should I do this? Should I discount? Should I add this? Like what would I put in the premium plan? And that tells me that if that's where they're struggling, it just means that they haven't really adopted that psychology of a premium buyer yet. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're cheapo.
Yeah.
I think it just means that they're perhaps in the normal category, because same thing, if you're a normal buyer, it's going to be hard for you to understand the premium, and then it will probably also be hard for you to understand the cheapo. Right? So I usually compare it. This is, I think, an analogy people can kind of understand, is when you go to book a flight. There's different ways to book a flight. You can just go right to the airline. You can go on, Google Flights, or you can go like, oh, what are those, kayak and, the discount prices. So maybe you're thinking, okay, I'll get a last minute ticket and we won't get to sit together. How many times have you heard people say this? Oh, they could throw me in the baggage compartment. I won't, right? Because they're like, I am just trying to pay the least amount of money and still get the thing that I'm looking for. The cheapo buyers like that, they're like, hey, I want the discount codes. I'll do the red eye overnight. I'll do the early morning. I don't care if I have to wake up at 2 a.m. For like a 4:30 flight. I'm okay with that. I'll sit way in the back. We don't need to sit together. I'll pay for my baggage as extra. I just won't pack baggage. It's okay. Like I'll, shove everything in a carry-on. That's one way to book it. Or the other way to book it is, hey, I'm just, going to go and do the search, and then whatever looks like a decent option for a decent price, I'll book that. Or the other option is, I want to make sure that this is the most convenient and easy thing for me. I would rather pay more money so that I don't need to be up at 4 a.m. That's a trade-off. I would rather buy the first class seat because then I know for sure I'm going to be in first class. I'll get the premium snacks, or I'll get a meal. I might get a hot towel. I will be more taken care of. I know that I will have more room. I'll get to board first. I'll get to get off first. And they know that they're taken care of, and they're okay to spend more money because they know that they will be taken care of. So depending on what psychology you have, that will probably be how you decide to make many, if not all, of your purchasing decisions.
Yeah, so I think our advantage, some people have grown up as a premium buyer. They grew up in a premium sort of silver spoon in their mouth environment. That's not me. It's not you.
Not me either.
Right. Some people have grown up in a really, really cheapo environment, right? And so the challenge is that kind of creates this inherent blind spot. The advantage I feel that you and I have as coaches is, one, we've been in the cheap environment. I remember my mom like packing cans of food when we would take a vacation and cereal because she wanted to make sure we had, supplies and food to eat rather than doing expensive stuff, right? Which is just funny to think about, right? Now, me and my brothers, we joke about this. So I think the advantage is we've been all three, and we now are, we're hanging out in Mexico. We're having a very premium sort of buyer experience. And I don't even think about what things cost. I don't think about the money. I just think about what experience I want to have. And so, there's been that shift. But I can empathize and connect and go back to understanding how a cheapo thinks or how a more normal buyer thinks. But in general, my default is I'm not really thinking about the expensive things. I'm thinking about what am I going to get and how's it going to help? Because there's a lot of things we do that make us a lot more money than they cost, even though they're very expensive. And so one of the things that helped me to do that, and I don't know about you, but one of the things that's really helped me shift my mindset was getting high ticket coaches. It's getting coaches that could help me. I was investing and spending what I felt like was a lot of money. And we're not cheap at DoorGrow, right? We're some would say very expensive, but I was spending money and then I was getting a return. I was getting a return on that investment with coaches. And that psychological impact of investing in yourself financially, doing something to financially invest in leveling up you and your business, creates this unconscious perception that you are worth people spending money on. You are worth being invested in. And it's difficult to go to your clients and try to convince them and you feel like you want them to give you money and invest in you when you won't even invest in yourself. This is a big deal. And so if this is one of the things that not only can we help you with some of the money mindset, but just by investing or joining a program like DoorGrow's Mastermind, that's going to be a strong signal to you that you have invested in yourself. And it puts a little pressure on you that you now need to perform and get a return from this. You've got to take action. And the bigger piece is we give you clarity, because if you don't have clarity, and that's what coaches do, they give you clarity, which shortens the path to get to the result. Otherwise, you're experimenting, you're testing out growth strategies, you're trying different things. You're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're wasting energy, you're wasting all your different currencies, time, energy, focus, cash, and effort. And so if we can help you collapse time on that, you get to an ROI faster, you get money faster. And it's very easy to offset thousands of dollars a month, even in property management. It's very easy. That could be 10 new doors, 20 new doors. And we have some clients doing that on a monthly basis. They're adding doors once they get their engines installed and work with us on growth. And so it's very easy for us to offset the cost of our program, which is why we're one of the few programs or coaches or vendors in the property management space that doesn't have an annual contract or an annual term or an annual agreement. We're month to month. We earn our place. We don't need to get people to sign on the dotted line that they're committed to us for a year and force them to stay with us. Clients stay with us for years because we get them an ROI. We make them more money. It's a no-brainer. And that's what good investments should be. They should give you an ROI. So if you want to level up your mindset, level up your pricing, make more money, make it easier to work in your business, then reach out to DoorGrow. We can help you out. So I'd like to mention our sponsor for this episode.
Speaking of making things easier and better.
So let me tell you a little bit about Blanket. Very cool client retention platform. So Blanket is a property retention and growth platform that helps property managers stop losing doors. It's not just about what you bring in, it's about what you also keep. So decreasing churn, add more revenue, and increase the number of properties they manage. Wow your clients with a branded investor dashboard and an off-market marketplace while your team gets all the tools they need to identify owners at risk of churning. They're thinking about leaving you. It has indicators and powerful systems to help you add more doors. This is something we want all of our clients to use. I think it's a brilliant system and platform. I've hung out with Lior, the CEO of Blanket, really great guy. I believe in their product. I think it is something that we're always focused on the front end. We're focused on growth, but a lot of times we don't focus on the retention, the back end. And even if a client sells a property, Blanket will help you keep that property in your portfolio and get another one of your owners to own that property. That's how it's really a brilliant system. So check it out. Okay. So back to talking about pricing. Any other things we should touch on before wrapping up about pricing that we've been noticing with clients?
I think those are the two that stick out to me the most. And you touched on it. We didn't go too deep into it. The second one was there's just not enough of a distinguishing factor between two plans or sometimes between all three. Sometimes you look at pricing and you go, so what's the big difference between the lowest plan and the highest plan? And it might be like $50 difference or like a $100 difference. And then you go, okay, why would somebody pay $100 less over here to pay the higher percentage? It doesn't make enough sense.
Yeah.
So there's not big enough of a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You brought that up earlier, but we didn't really.
Yeah, there needs to be a really strong distinguishing contrast between your cheapest plan, your middle plan, and your premium plan. It needs to be obvious to if a cheapo looks at these three, they're like, I want this plan. If a normal buyer, which is the majority of the marketplace, 61% studies say, but maybe 2/3. And in property management, probably even more because the cheapest cheapos self-manage. They won't even work with you. So it's skewed more towards the premium side. And so the normal buyers would go towards the middle, and then the premium buyers would go towards the premium option. It would be obvious to them. They're like, I want all of this peace of mind. I want all of this. And the cheapos are like, I want the cheapest price. And then you've got in the middle, and we call that the Goldilocks principle. And we have some other principles like the bandwagon principle and some other principles that we teach related to pricing so you can really understand this and you know how to sell it. That's the other big piece is you got to know how to sell the pricing effectively. And if you have good pricing, you have a really optimized pricing model and you know how to sell it, it actually changes your portfolio. It incentivizes you having better properties, better owners, and less work over the really high operational costs, difficult owners. So it gets you out of what we've talked about many times, the cycle of suck, where you take on crappy owners, you've got then crappy properties to deal with, which leads to crappy, upset, frustrated tenants, which leads to crappy reviews and reputation, which sums up the whole industry. And if you have a crappy reputation and reviews, then you attract more crappy clients and the cycle continues. So this gets you out of the cycle of suck and it gets you into a trajectory of having a lot more space, a lot more margin, a lot more ease in your business. And, I'll throw this out there as well. If you have the right growth strategies, you attract less of the cheapos because the wrong growth strategies, internet-based, digital marketing-based growth strategies leads to the cheapest owners. Those are the people searching on the internet. The best owners are captured earlier in the sales cycle. So reach out to us. We would love to help you with that. All right. So in wrapping up, if you've ever felt stuck or stagnant or you want to take your property management business to the next level, reach out to us at DoorGrow.com. Also, join our free Facebook community just for property management business owners, not team members, at DoorGrowClub.com. And if you found this even a little bit helpful, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. And if you go to DoorGrow.com/subscribe, you can join our newsletter and our emailing list. We would love to have you join us and get tips, tricks, updates on our products, services, and offers and the stuff that we can do to help you. And until next time, remember, the slowest path to growth is to do it alone. So let's grow together. Bye, everyone.